What's up, YouTube? If you're new here, my name is Lillian, and if you're not, welcome back to my channel. Today, I will be drawing and animating Rula. If you are on TikTok, chances are you know who this is. So I am just going to take one of his recent clips of Rula being Rula, and I am going to animate it here in Procreate and Procreate Dreams. So if you want to see my process when it comes to creating these animations, stick around. So I'm just going to see the size of the pen that I'm using, and we're going to get this show on the road. Okay, so I'm sketching him out right now. I always start my sketches with a circle, especially if I'm sketching a face. He has a very slim, slender, you know, face. So I am making sure that my sketch reflects that. A very, long, slender, like rectangular silhouette of a face, basically. And then I jump to the next thing. Usually it's the eyes, but his eyes are covered with large shades. So I'm going to work on that next. Not being too perfect because it is a sketch, but sometimes I do find myself focusing in on the little details a little too much. All right, so we're getting back into it. Sorry about the sound. So yeah, just getting a good sketch of not only the size and the head, but also like the placement of where the character will be in the scene. I am using the same dimensions of the video in 4K. So I think it's like about 3800 by 2100. About. Not specifically. I can put the specific dimensions on the screen if I remember to do so. If I don't, let me know and I'll put it in the comments. Okay, so when it comes to doing the sketches, I think the best tip that I have is just doing shapes relative to other things. So, like the mouth placement. I look at the mouth placement and you know, relative to the placement of the glasses on the screenshot, and I try to mimic that. So if it's like an inch from, the glasses, then I try to do the same in a way, but I also want it to look like a cartoon. I don't want it to look r- super realistic because it takes away from the style that I'm going for. One way I do this is I don't draw the nose, which surprisingly some people don't even realize, but I think it's just one of my art styles that I've picked up that I like. Sort of like the brats, they don't draw the nose, but if they turn to the side, you will see the nose. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that concept. Okay, drawing the facial hair. I'm not really too fond of drawing facial hair. I am glad that I am drawing a male because I find myself drawing females so often that I think it's good practice to kind of switch it up every now and then. So yeah, happy to be doing a male character. All right, so he is known for having, kind of like a extended neck or long neck. So I'm not going to make too many adjustments to how it already looks. If anything, I could make it even longer to add to the cartoon effect, but I'm not going to overdo it. Let's just get this sketch down and see what we can come up with. And he is known for holding a belt. He is TikTok's disciplinary, so that's what I am drawing next. Sorry if you hear any background noise. This is a 2 hour process put together, and I don't have the luxury of going back and making edits to this, so y'all are gonna get this voiceover as unedited, uncut as can be, I guess. Okay. So I'm using the select tool, and I use the select tool a lot in the freehand mode specifically. And I make adjustments, and you're gonna see me use that so many times throughout this process. So I adjusted the size of his head, made it bigger because this is a cartoon. I wanted to have the look of a cartoon. So sometimes that involves changing not necessarily not necessarily the details, like the specific details of things, but more so like the, the size of things, kind of like exaggerating, like a caricature. Of course, I can't say the word, but a caricature. You know what I mean, like that. So yeah, I find myself having to stop myself from getting too specific when it comes to doing my sketches, but sometimes I just can't help myself. And I like to do these videos where I'm not really editing the visual component of the video and not the audio clearly either, but you get to see it in real time so that you can see my creative process uncut. Like, you see the way that I think when I'm creating what I'm working on, and I think it's helpful. It's helpful for me when I watch other creators, so hopefully this is also helpful for you. I'm not going to be naming layers much more, but I'm trying to get into the habit of doing it every now and then. Maybe I'll form a good habit to have, but the chances are slim. So I'm gonna go ahead and sketch in a background as well, changing the color to do so, just so it doesn't, conflict or mash too much with the drawing of the character. Rula is known for making these viral videos in the closet, so that's what we have here. And later on, I'll go in and, kind of extend the parts that you don't see in this screenshot because he will be moving. So I don't want him to move and parts of the background to be missing. But I'll do that later, probably off camera. And from doing this, recording the process of me creating this character, I realized I spent about 10 minutes on each sketch. But once you get like the core down, like the foundation down, I'll just be duplicating the sketch and making slight adjustments for the next frame. So although this is a 2-hour video, um, you will see why, and you will see how I kind of cut down the time when it comes to making something like this, and gotta be efficient. So hopefully you'll see a little some tips on how I'm able to be efficient while still producing, good quality work. So the first sketch is done. Yes, and it's looking good so far. So far, so good. It's motivating me to keep going. All right, so the next frame. With this next frame, it has an added element to it, which is going to be the pointing finger and the judgment that comes with it. So I'm going to duplicate that first frame, and I'm going to use elements from that frame with this second one. Doing everything I can to be as efficient as possible because animating is time consuming. So you got to be resourceful. So I just erased the inside of the mouth and I took the select tool, like I said I would, um, and I'm just adjusting it. Because remember, this is the shape. So I'm able to make all of these little adjustments and not worry too much on, you know, clean line work. That comes later. And once I get this looking how I want it to look, I'm going to add a second layer and I'm going to do the hand poses on a separate layer. Okay. So you see I'm using the freehand select tool and I'm kind of adjusting the eyebrows. When it comes to animating, even the slightest, most subtle adjustment uh, plays a big role in the animation. It's things that maybe you don't consciously pick up, but subconsciously the viewer will notice, these differences. Okay, so I've lowered the opacity of that the face frame, and now I'm focusing in on the hand poses. Now, artists tend to believe that hand poses are difficult. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate things. They can be, but at the end of the day, just like anything that you draw, the foundation is shapes. So as long as you can block out those shapes, the way that, you know, your reference is showing, it's a piece of cake. Don't overcomplicate things. And I know that's easier said than done. And this also plays a role with perspective because the finger is, as you'll see in the next frame, is going to continue to point at the viewer. Now that's where it can get a little bit of, difficult, but I'm up for the challenge. Okay. And as you can see, I am constantly using the select tool um, in freehand mode, making slight adjustments. That way I don't have to continue trying to erase and redraw. I can just make the adjustment by transforming what I already have down and working off of that. Right, so I've selected the head and you see that subtle slight tilt to the side. Once you see the final, or if you've already seen the final reel, you'll see, how effective those subtle movements really are. So don't downplay the subtle movements. I'm glad that's one of the things I learned early on when animating because I was animating things that were moving slowly, and when things move slow, it's the subtle movements that you focus in on. When things are moving quicker, it's really just pose, 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 which you'll see here. But when you can combine that with the subtle movements, that's when you really, you know, are like working that magic, you know? It's all about illusion. Animating is creating that illusion for the conscious and subconscious parts of your viewer. Okay, so now I'm just kind of, well, not kind of, but I'm putting a white background on the hand pose so that, and I'm having a difficult time doing it, but so that, it's easier to view when I'm flipping between frames. Yeah. I have to make sure that there's no gaps. That way, when I drag and drop that white color, it just fills in exactly what I wanted to fill in. So this is looking good. This is looking very, very good. Very pleased with how it's turning out so far, and I have a long way to go. But this is very when you have a good sketch, it's very encouraging to just keep going. And I'm focusing on the in-betweening right now, or not the in-betweening, the key framing right now. But after that, once I get the timing down with those keyframes, I'll begin in-betweening. For this purpose, I'm not going to in-between until like I'm already in Procreate Dreams. Everything is mapped out and I see what needs to be in between because this is his movements are pretty quick. So everything doesn't need a in between and maybe it'll be certain things that get in between like maybe just the mouth poses or maybe just the hand poses, you know? So that'll be later on, but for now, I'm going to focus in on the keyframes. Okay, so I'm paying attention to what's different from this keyframe from the last. Um, Special attention to like the spacing from one element to another, like I mentioned before. So I'm doing the mouth pose and I'll probably transform it and make it bigger. But for now, I'm just trying to sketch out or map out, the shape. And now that I'm looking at it, it looks like a rounded triangle. Yeah. Add in the facial hair. So yeah, when it comes to animating, when I say it's easy, I mean that if you know how to draw, which is the first step, which is the foundation, right? Then you can be a good what they call it is a draftsman, and you just have to be prepared to draw a lot. It's because all it is just multiple drawings put together. When it comes to 2D animation. Now, I am starting my commitment to 3D and 3D animation, 3D sculpting, 3D animation, but I'm thankful that I started with 2D and 2D animation because I feel like I have the foundation down, um, and the confidence to where I'm excited for the 3D animation and it doesn't seem like it'll be overwhelming. I've had an introduction to it before in the past, but now that I'm stepping into it with, the foundations of posing and the foundations of animations and the principles that are important to know, then, I feel like it kind of puts me in a good position to hit the ground running with 3D animation. So, yeah. All right, so now I'm doing kind of a funky pose with this finger actually, getting to the point where it is pointing at the viewer and it is warping the perspective. So I'm going to play around with this a bit because I just wanted to, I wanted to make sense. Because even if you look at his pose in the video, if you look at it long enough, like the pointing finger, it almost doesn't even make sense in your mind, but you can play around with it, tweak it, and get it to give off the impression that you want it to. So that's what's going on here. So a lot of tweaking, a lot of trial and error to get it right because I'm not sitting here really blocking out the shapes first and then drawing. I'm just straight up drawing. Like if you got to look at the finger as if it's like a cylinder coming towards you, a thin cylinder facing towards you. Yeah, those lines will confuse you a bit, but they can also be very helpful if you know what you're doing. I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get it right. I know it. So I'm going to give it a second try. I didn't like that first try. Okay. Adjusting the onion skins to show what I'm able to see from the previous frame. And now I'm going back to the foundation, back to what I know, shapes. Anytime you have trouble drawing something, take it back to the foundations. Blocking out those shapes. And now tackling what is making this hand pose more difficult than it needs to be, which is this pointing finger and the perspective that it's in. And what's going on in my mind right now is just looking at the finger relative to other things that are in the pose. Things that may offer assistance with the perspective that you don't see here is the values. So like the shading and the highlights that obviously aren't pictured in the sketch, but in post or later on, I'll be able to add those things and that will help, bring out the pose even more. So this is attempt number 3 at getting this pose right. And sometimes it takes that, especially if you're like me, who sometimes has a perfectionist complex. Uh, that can be a gift and a curse. Hopefully, it's a gift in this case. Let's see. I'm in Procreate, so I'm using 2 fingers, tapping with 2 fingers to undo. And I was trying to see, yeah, so nice, not bad. Kind of playing with it, seeing is there a way to make it obvious, but there's no need. I think I'm pleased with how it turned out. And I'm moving on to just making a few more adjustments with this frame, flipping through the frames to see how it's flowing. And this will be my next keyframe. All right, so I'm gonna actually, let's see, I'm just gonna duplicate the most similar pose to the next one that I'm working on. I'm gonna move it up to the top, and I am going to, all right, so I'm getting rid of the mouth because that's different in this frame. And I am also adjusting the position of the eyebrows. Change the pen size. All right, so now I am drawing the shape of his mouth in this pose. Normally when I do this, I start with how can I explain this? The inside of the mouth. I draw the lips, the shape of the lips last. Because if I can get down the inside of the mouth, that shape, it looks more accurate. I hope that makes sense. Okay. And it's looking good. So I'm just going to select the head and I'm going to lift it up just a bit because those subtle movements, they really, they add to the visual effects in animation. Now, this is me coming up with a bright idea to continue to extend his neck throughout the animation. So the neck would get longer the madder he gets. Because he is a creator who's known for having a pretty, you know, long neck, but I didn't really stick to that idea as you'll see as we continue on because his head is going to do a lot of moving. So, but throughout this, I do write a few different notes that I want to make sure that I touch on. just to show you all how I think while I'm creating something. Okay, so I also duplicated the hand pose, and I'm making a few adjustments to the size so that it looks like the perspective is changing a bit. Easy way to do that is just by scaling up, increasing the size, and now it looks like the finger's kind of pointing at you. All right, now we're moving on. Okay, so in this pose, the hand is gone. The only real difference is, see, I shouldn't have got rid of that mouth frame because I can use it. This is where I am going to be strategic in just erasing the bottom lip and the bottom set of teeth and adding a few gums at the top, and he's gonna bite with the top set of teeth, top row of teeth. And that's an easy way to make the F and V sound for your character mouth chart. Basically, that's what I'm doing here. I'm really doing the character mouth chart, but combined with a bunch of different poses and movements because as you'll see in this video or in the original TikTok, bro is all over the place. He's animated by himself. Honestly, that's what makes doing an animation of him, you know, kind of fun. Okay. So I'm just adjusting the and remember, this is a sketch, so I'm able to really like manipulate and play around with it as much as I need to, as much as I can, to where it makes sense, because the goal is to create a foundation for me to mimic for the cleanup work. I know I mentioned earlier that it took me about 10 minutes to do each pose, but that is only when I am doing the pose from scratch. If I'm duplicating the pose and just manipulating it for another pose or the next pose, I'm able to work a lot quicker. So, like in this instance, it's not going to take 10 minutes to do. I'm able to knock it out even quicker. And with him having 43 keyframes and later on a fair amount of in-betweens as well, working if working like that, it's really helpful. And I know I mentioned this earlier as well, but that selection tool here in Procreate is gold. And that's, do you know what? That's why I'm not really animating in Procreate Dreams from scratch, because I need that feature. Now, is it 100% necessary for you to animate? Absolutely not. But I always say when it comes to animation, the name of the game is being efficient. It's already time consuming. So the least they could do is provide us with all the tools possible to help us, be able to uh, knock everything out in one program. Either way, y'all know I love Procreate. I love Procreate Dreams. I'm not complaining. I think both apps do what they need to do. So I'm just adjusting the belt or the hand pose where he was holding the belt. And thankfully his movements are so quick, which is another reason why it's, just scrubbing through the video timeline to see the keyframes. It's helpful because I don't really have to in between a quick movement because it happens so quick. There's no blur, there's nothing. It's just in the frame, out the frame. And as you can see here, for the sake of having adding to the animation, I did my own head turn, whereas he just kind of kept his head in that position. And so far, so good. All right, so now I turned on the onion skins. As you can see, I turned down the opacity, and I am doing another keyframe from scratch. I'm using the previous keyframe as kind of like a reference point because this is basically a head turn. I feel like if you learn how to do head turns, your life, I don't know how to, I think what I'm trying to say is that's the fundamentals, and you'll have the foundation that you need to do character animation if you could do head turns because, that's just it's the basics. You'll use it a lot when it comes to character animation. I went to a previous frame and I selected and copied the glasses, and I moved that frame to this new frame that I'm sketching so that I don't have to redraw those glasses if I don't have to. Doing my best to be efficient when it comes to the long process of animation. Okay. And I'm just resizing it to make sure that it fits this 3/4 view of the head that we have going on here. All right, so I'm just sketching out the shape of his lips in this frame. His cheeks are kind of filled with air. And add in a little facial hair. Can't forget that. All right, now I'm just selecting that mouth frame that I just drew. Not the frame, but just to resize it. Nice. Add the Adam's apple. And I'm scrubbing through the frames to see if that flows. Still repositioning. Yep, that looks good. Okay. Now I'll just use the onion skin. Oops. Actually, I'll just select the shirt, copy and paste, and drag and drop that to this frame. Nice. Okay. Maybe have it adjusted just a little bit. Yep. So I'm noting subtle changes that just help to make the animation look smooth. It's one of those things that may not be picked up consciously, but definitely um, subconsciously. And now I'm just trying to catch that frame where he turns, his head turns. And I'm realizing, okay, maybe I just need to, yeah, screen record it so that I can scrub through it, while it's paused and catch all the frames that I need to finish this animation. But so far, so good. Okay, and we'll be back. All right, so now I do have the video. I'm off of TikTok, and now you'll see me scrub through the video while it's paused to catch the frames that I need. I've already done it in this case, and we are now moving on to the next frame. With this next frame, I'm selecting the head of the previous frame and I'm just flipping it. And that will serve as the shape for this next frame here, making small adjustments where needed. All right, so I'm selecting well, one part of the glasses and just making slight adjustments that make it look better. Animation, just like drawing, is trial and error. So if one thing doesn't work, sometimes just a gentle or small tweak can really get it, you know, looking ideal. And you got to remember when it comes to animation, which is a hack and has taught me to not be such a perfectionist, is these frames go by so quick that people really don't have the chance or the opportunity to even focus in on, the small details and so you just need to make, you know, the frames, the overall design appealing. Yeah, that's what I mean. As long as you make the overall design appealing, then it'll all fall into place. So this is a quick head swing. So I did draw action lines as you can see here, just to emphasize, that head swing. And I'm scrubbing the screen recorded video to see what the next frame will be. And I think there's an art to that as well, picking the keyframes. How I pick the keyframes is based on the change of expression, how long the frame stays, on the screen, like the length of the frame. And really, those two things will help me determine, is this the keyframe, you know? So in this one, the mouth is open, the head is back, straight rather than tilted. So I made those adjustments. And, with the mouth being open, the jaw kind of drops. I definitely like to add values when I'm doing these sketches because they will help me when I am doing, the clean line art. The values is like filling in those spaces, um, like the chin hair and the shades and the spaces inside the mouth where they're colored in or filled in. That's where the value comes in. Not really, there's no shadows or highlights in this because when I look at cartoons, I really, it's cool when you animate because watching TV is studying. You're always learning just by entertaining yourself. And there's a lot of cartoons, uh, they don't shade or highlight their animations, but they will do it for like their backgrounds or their props and things like that. So, yeah. Now, if I was to um, add, lighting and shading, I would try to add that in the sketch as well. This is a funny pose. This might be the main pose here. And I'm drawing veins in the neck just to emphasize it's the little things, right? Um, you might not catch it on the first watch, but if you watch it a couple times, you might notice different things about it that, you know, are nice touches to add. A little comic effect there. If you're learning how to draw or if you're interested in animating, especially character animation, I would highly recommend not only learning the head turn, but also just getting into the habit and finding the joy in drawing facial expressions. Not only is it fun, but you'll find yourself doing those expressions while you're drawing just to, I don't know, it kind of goes hand in hand. And you just want to have that skill so that you can emphasize the things that need to be emphasized that help portray the emotion that you're trying to portray. And I hope that makes sense. Okay. So, of course, we're duplicating again where he's doing the T sound, the S and T sound. And I just dragged and dropped it. That's going to be the base of my new frame. I'm going to remove this hand pose with the belt because it's not in this new frame. And I'm just going to fill that in with an arm and modify, freehand select the head and transform it. So I just moved it down just a bit and we're moving on. And the little tweaks like that is how I'm able to get from, 3 keyframes to 43. Um, and we're almost an hour into this animation process, and it's still, it doesn't even feel like it, because if you love to draw, you're just doing what you do. I know I mentioned earlier that these frames go by quick, so you don't have to focus too much on detail, especially when you're just doing a fun project like this one. And I mentioned just making sure that the character is appealing, right? So as long as the main design is appealing, when you're making, edits, changing the facial expression or changing the pose of the character, it's going to remain appealing. Appealing is the 12th principle of animation. And if you're interested in animating or you are an animator, you either already know about the 12 principles of animation or you should know. Well, having that foundation is so important. And I made a note here. At this point, I realize I'm just doing a mouth chart, keyframing expressions. Yep. Which is essentially what's going on here. Um, but yeah, if you know the 12 principles of animation and you get that foundation down to the point where you could teach it, which is what I've always been taught, that to become an expert in a subject, you need to be able to teach it. Once you're able to teach it, not only do you know it, but you really know it. So, really have that foundation when it comes to those 12 principles of animation. Knowing those 12 principles, uh, they'll remain in the back of your mind. And it's kind of like riding a bike. You could go years. Like now, I haven't rode a bike in I don't even know how many years, but if I got a bike today, I could ride it. So it's kind of like the same concept. Like if you get the foundation, you'll always know in the back of your mind and you'll use the principles, you know, without even thinking about it. It'll just be second nature. So, yeah, just a quick tip. All right, and we're off to our next keyframe. Now, this one involves the belt in motion. When it comes to fast actions like this one that will only be on the screen for one frame, um, to enhance the effect like I did before, I am going to add, some action lines that I believe I'm going to add some action lines. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just to, emphasize the movement that's happening here. All right. And then I see another frame, which is you know, like I mentioned before, I'm just really just doing a mouth chart and facial expressions. I noticed the frame I already created. When I have situations like that, I can just duplicate and it just adds to the list. So what essentially is 43 frames is really less. It is 43 frames, but I didn't have to draw those frames or a frame 43 times from scratch. maybe some edits to it, you know? So for this next frame, the belt kind of moves across his face, and I'm going to add like a white background to this layer. So, yep. So we can see how it will look once I go in and do my line art, clean line work, and filling in the colors and whatnot. And I'm just, let's see. Okay, so far so good. All right, so now I'm just selecting this head frame, tilting it or rotating it just a bit, as those subtle movements just increase the appeal of the animation and emphasize the movement. And I'm going to do some action lines as well. Action lines just going in the direction of the movement of the object. So showing the path of the object basically, especially since it's not going to last, super long on the animation because it's a quick action. So it goes by really quickly. That's, you know what? That's the next thing I'm going to do is do some action animations. I think that'll be really fun. Okay, looking good. And I'm just flipping through the frames to see if it's flowing, if it makes sense, if it works. So I'm going to duplicate that layer and let's see. Okay, yeah, because I need the belt to kind of fall like it does in the actual video. All right, now I'm looking for the frame where his mouth is, or when that looks as close to the next frame that I have to do as possible. So let's see. Probably that one. Yeah. Okay. Because his head has that is in like the 3/4 turn and not straight on, I'm going to take this keyframe and just remove what I'm not going to use for the current keyframe that I'm working on. While everything that's in the position that I need it to be remains, I'm going to make slight adjustments, which is basically, this mouth pose. I always start with the inside and Sometimes I'll go straight into the lips or I'll just work on the teeth and the tongue, but I always start with the inside of the shape of the mouth. All right. Making sure to close up my shapes. All right. This could look better. So let's see. Hmm. Okay. So this is one of the situations where trial and error comes into play. I'm not really liking how it looks so far, but I'm sure just enough adjustments can get it to mirror the video like I am attempting to do. So just like tilt of the head, maybe. And I definitely got to fix this top lip. When it comes to doing cartoons, sometimes it's important to not make the sketch or the drawing that you're doing look exactly like, you know, the reference, but just taking from the reference what you need and then putting your twist to it, uh, but still conveying what you're trying to convey with your drawing. So as long as I really, get that mouth shape, get the emphasis on the sound that he's making at this part in the video. Let's see, sorry about that. Um, then I will have accomplished what I'm setting out to accomplish. So let's see. I'm doing this voiceover about 9 days before TikTok is allegedly supposed to be banned. So, and I'll likely drop this before that happens. But hopefully, make sure you check in, make sure you subscribe, make sure you stick around for the next video. Because if TikTok does get banned, I don't know. We'll need to discuss where we're going. Okay. Anyways, if you're watching this video and TikTok is banned, drop down in the comments where I need to go. Where are we going next? Or are we just running it out on YouTube? I'm not really a big fan of Instagram, I'm not gonna lie. Anyhow, just continuing on. So I got the mouth to look how I wanted it to look. This is definitely um this is the look I'm going for. It's always important, like knowing that you may not get that sketch right on the first try, but just keep making the necessary tweaks. Sometimes I'll even, delete the sketch and start all the way over if necessary. But I'm going to get it done. I already have it made up in my mind that I'm going to complete it, especially in the time frame that I give myself. So one way or another, gotta get it done. Okay. So here's another. You see me using the selection tool a lot, and I'm going to continue to do that. And that's how I just move things around. So I'm moving around the shape, the silhouette of the head, making sure that I get you know, the angles and the sizes that I need. I even took the T sound from a previous frame and I copied and pasted it onto this frame here, making a few adjustments to the look so that it fits this rotation of the head shape, and it's good to go. Reduce, reuse, recycle. That's very helpful when it comes to animating, and especially when you're trying to knock out stuff really quickly. In a perfect world, I draw every frame, you know, from scratch, but because I only have 24 hours in a day and two kids and a job, that's just not realistic. So here I am knocking out this animation in 48 hours. Okay. This is such good practice for me. I really like testing my limits. Like, maybe I'll get to the point where I can knock these out in 24 hours. But I really find myself, getting into this flow state when I give myself a time frame to do things. Okay, so next pose. Okay, that looks like it's going to be that there. Yeah, duplicate, drag and drop to the top. And let's make some slight adjustments to this. Actually, let's just completely remove the mouth. And I'm going to take the mouth from the previous keyframe and I'm going to open it. So I'm going to select the top jaw, basically including the teeth and the lips, or the bottom jaw, sorry. Um, and just move it down and then move the entire mouth. And let's lower that even more. Oops. Okay. Okay. That's looking good. Just transforming to make it match more of the actual video. And kind of shaping out those teeth. I don't want it to be perfectly across because every element of the drawing adds to, the character of your character. So, let's see, you can just redraw the bottom lip. Let's remove that too. Yeah. Okay. Redrawing the bottom lip. Okay, that looks good. And adding those, expression lines really help out. Probably not those though. That might, let's see. No, not bad. But yeah, adding those expression lines really help the character look, really make Rula look like Rula. Making sure to include the unique elements of the character that I'm drawing so that, there's a distinction basically. Okay, so I'm just gonna tilt the head as he's opening his mouth. Okay, and then the next frame. Yep, so it's gonna be the T sound, and I'm just gonna move the head down. Let's see. So gonna select the head and the neck, tilt and kind of lower it so that I get it in a position that it is in the actual video. That's dang near spot on. And I'm just gonna kind of move that arm a bit. Yeah. So expressive. All right, so I'm going to merge those layers together, duplicate, move that to the top, and let's see. I'm going to select the mouth, and I'm gonna, oh, sorry. Okay, select the mouth and transform it a bit. We're just moving it to the side. Okay, and redrawing this cheek. adjusting the shape of the mouth. And as you can see, I mean, there's not much is going to change in the things that I'm saying when it comes to this animation because I'm just showing you my thought process when it comes to making adjustments, selecting keyframes, and you know, just the things I keep in mind when I'm drawing, basically. On another note, as fun as it's been to draw in 3D in a 2D space, uh, when I say that, I mean like the character head turn. Soon, I will be doing 3D animations, and it will make things like this. I don't know. Did I mention that earlier? I don't know. But it'll make processes like this even more fun, I think. I don't know. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but I'm super excited to do it. Getting a new laptop, or yeah, I mean, I'm getting a laptop because I've been working solely on the iPad Pro. So I am adding another tool to my arsenal for, as an artist. And I'll do a video on me unboxing this new laptop, but it should be able to handle 3D animation. And because I have the animation aspect down pat and I've been, um, you know, training myself doing 3D on the iPad, I think it's finally time to put the two together and, you know, really make some magic. All right, so we are officially uh, a few, we are officially a little past an hour into this process. You see what's going on. It's basically just a repetition of just doing this over and over and over again, and that's just the joy and the misery of animation. So I'm going to fast forward and speed up the video of me doing the remainder of these keyframes, and we are going to get to the part where I, kind of transition from Procreate to Procreate Dreams to start the editing process. So stick around. All right, so we've reached the end. There's music playing in the background, so I can't really play the TikTok audio so that you can see, you know, this with the sound, but you can see how the movement is flowing, similar to the video. And that's what I'm going for. I haven't even done the editing and the timing. Everything is the same time right now. Um, I think this is at 8 frames per second. But now we get to the fun part. Well, that was fun, but the chill part where we get to go in Procreate Dreams and start the editing process. All right, so I've uploaded the video onto Procreate Dreams because I need it to kind of space out the timing of the frames. Let's see, I'm just increasing the time and the frames per second of my project. And okay, let me fix that time, the duration, so that it fits the full video. All right. And I'm going to move it off the stage in the video. And you can't be in drawing mode to move anything. So I got out of drawing mode by clicking on that pen stroke before I moved it off the stage. Now with the fun part. Now I'm going to make the mistake first of what you shouldn't do, or the more time consuming part. But first, I'm flattening each frame because you, let me say, not say, you can drag and drop the groups, the elements of a group onto Procreate Dreams, but they will be separated and they won't be together. So I'm flattening all of the groups that I created before I move them all onto Procreate Dreams. So I'm just double clicking the group, clicking flatten. You could also pinch them together. All right, is that everything? Great. Okay, so first, showing what you shouldn't do is drag one frame, drop one frame, and have to resize them. Now, I did this the first couple of times because I forgot. I forgot the trick that I learned. Because one day I was just like, you know what? I wonder what would happen if I selected all the frames and dragged and dropped them all at once. So let's see how long it takes me to realize that I'm taking the long. Yeah, I learned that pretty quick. Okay, so now you see me selecting all the frames, and that's a lot of frames. And I dragged and dropped them all. But there is a catch, unfortunately. The catch is, am I gonna undo it? No, don't undo it. Yeah, here we go. So the catch is it flips. It does not do them in the order that you put them in. It reverses the order, or it does it from top to bottom. So I do have to go in and put them in the correct order, which is worth it compared to the other process where I would drag and drop them one by one. And I'm making that note so I don't forget to tell y'all. So yeah, it uploads in the opposite the opposite order. But that's okay. So I'm just taking the time to put them in the order that they need to be in, all 43 frames. All right, so we finally got everything in the correct order. Now I'm selecting the group um, icon, and this is how I resize them all at once. Oops. So I'm going to do that again. Okay, now I'm going to select everything by coloring over it. Everything that's highlighted is going to get edited. So I'm resizing them all. Now, I wish I could also move them all, but they have to be in a group to do that, and I'm not about to do that. So I'm just going to realign them. And this is just what goes into editing and Procreate Dreams. It's tedious, but it's worth it. So I'm not mad. And from here, I'm going to go ahead, instead of just moving everything, I'm just going to go ahead and start focusing on the timing. So I'm looking at the video as I'm adjusting the timing of things. And after I get it in the approximate place that it should be, then I'll go in and listen to the audio and time it that way. And once I get the timing down, that's when I'll go back into Procreate and do the line art, do the colors, and repeat the process all over again until I have my final product. So, if you watch to the end of this video, you are you have my gratitude. Thanks for watching. I really do hope this was helpful for you in some way, shape, or form. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. I will respond. I respond to every single comment. And give a like if you found this video helpful in any way, or if you just want to support. And if you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. Hopefully, TikTok is still around when you're watching this. Um, but if it's not, it was good while it lasted. And you can check out my animated clips on my Anomaly Clips YouTube page. I will link that in the description. I'll also link my website, my Instagram page. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Um, until next time. Oh, and make sure y'all check the description for the final animation.